How you doing? This is Caleb Jackson, and I'm here to be talking about diversity and inclusion in the workplace. I basically chose this topic because, I've dealt with it plenty of times in the workplace, unfortunately, and I've seen it multiple times just shopping around in another job or in another place. You know, I've seen it plenty of times. I'm not really a big fan of it, but it is what it is. It's life. You know, like I said, it is what it is. Honestly, like just imagine a workplace where every voice is heard, and it doesn't matter what background you're from or anything like any of that sort matters. Obviously, that workplace is gonna flow, and it almost sounds like a dream, but in reality, it's pretty achievable through, diversity and inclusion. Honestly, it can help in the workplace so many ways. I know that for like my biggest thing is that it can create it can increase more innovation and creativity. Now, I say this because when you really think about it, obviously, a more diverse team is going to bring a way bigger range of ideas and perspectives, through various experiences or whatever, what that may not be, but it should create a more innovative solution, if that makes sense. Honestly, it can improve decision making as a whole, especially in complex business decisions, whether or complex business situations. I want to say, I know for a fact that more diverse companies make way more money. They definitely increase profitability and market share by a whole for sure. Because I want to say because they open themselves up to more markets. You know what I mean? Since they're more diverse, they have a more diverse market to work with, if that makes sense. Honestly, and when you have a more diverse workplace, this is another big thing for me too. You have better, how do I say this? You're gonna have better employee satisfaction. Because now when I say this, I want to say this as in like when you go to a workplace where you feel more included or just valued, let's just say valued as a whole, you're obviously gonna more likely be satisfied to come to work and do your job at your highest ability. And when you're more, that just goes with anything. Like if you're more motivated to do something, you're gonna do it better than how you would if you weren't motivated. You know what I mean? Like it just goes with everything. I want to say it builds a stronger it builds a stronger brand. I was gonna say employee brand, but it builds a stronger brand in general. But I want to say employee brand because it shows that a company is open to various different backgrounds and ideas and not just stuck on one culture. You know what I mean? And that's very important when talking about like just in the business world itself. Like you want to be more diverse. You want to be open to things because you're going to have a way broader market. You know what I mean? And honestly, piggybacking on how, it can help in a workplace. I want to say team collaboration and problem solving too, because if you really think about it, like more diverse teams are like most likely to better tackle, or I want more better to tackle problems. You know what I mean? That's just how I see it, because you just get you get different backgrounds, different type of views, you know what I mean? Because if you have people from the same background or whatever it may be, then your ideas are obviously going to be very similar, and there's not going to be much more broader thinking, if that makes sense. And honestly, like, my biggest thing in my current job, I currently work with children. I remember in one of the training modules that um, it was a whole section on diversity. And, now that I really think about it, there's only two guys who work at my job, and I am one of them. The rest are all women, which I have no problem with because everybody gets along. Everybody treats each other with respect. You know what I mean? Everybody's been through the diversity training. And going back to the diversity training, I mean, honestly, the diversity training is, I want to say, essential when talking about, just in a business aspect of things, because it literally, you start to recognize what's really going on. You know what I mean? Like, it definitely increases your diverse perspective, I want to say. And I would say, like, it challenges you, or really challenges your bias, your biases. And it makes you, like, really pay attention to your behavior. And I think that, like, self-awareness is a big thing when talking about diversity and inclusion, because if you're not aware, then how would you ever know what's really going on? And then through the diversity training, I mean, you get introduced to so many different, backgrounds, identities. And honestly, like, it helps you understand who you're working with. And that's a really big thing too, because if you don't really know who you're essentially working with, that can lead to a whole another problem. You know what I mean? Like, obviously you want to connect with your colleagues on a business level, but you also want to connect with them on a personal level so you can really know what they're thinking, and make sure, like, your answers or your goals, tasks, whatever it may be, is more personal and it means something. You know what I mean? I mean, honestly, like, with the trainings, I want to say it promotes respect to others, because when you go through the training and you're going through the modules and you're looking at all these trainings about diversity and whatever it may be, you start to really recognize and respect your other colleagues, I want to say, because you kind of get a sense of where they're coming from, if that makes sense. And piggybacking on that can lead on to better communication and collaboration in general. And that's always good when talking about the business world. Honestly, like, and obviously the biggest thing from the trainings would be, I want to say, reducing discrimination. That's probably, like, the biggest goal of it all, if we're really being honest. Like, when you address the situation at hand and you understand it respectively, then it can just help with, discrimination in the workplace and harassment in general, honestly. And piggybacking on that, man, decision making. I want to go back to decision making because I know I explained a little bit on how it can make, more, create more collaborative settings for companies. Obviously through the, like, decision making part, I want to say it helps reduce overthinking. It helps reduce overthinking and basically, like, when I say overthinking, I mean, like, you're more likely to obviously look at information from multiple angles if you, how do I explain this? If you're more likely to examine, a piece of information if you're knowledgeable about diversity itself, if that makes sense. And I want to say that because when you're talking about diversity, you're talking about different backgrounds or whatever it may be, you know, you're gonna look at the task or question or whatever it may be in different angles, I want to say, because of the diverse training, which is teach you how to look at it from a different angle or from a different person's perspective or whatever it may be. Um, it helps you. It helps really increase consideration, like in general, because you see a more wider range of options to a problem or outcomes to a problem, because obviously going through diverse training you have a better view on things, because you learn to not be so closed-mindedly on just how you think, because that's just how you grew up and that's just how you were, taught to think in your background. Like I said, not everybody's background is going to be the same as yours. So you might have a different perspective on a thing than your colleague. You both going through diverse training helps create a better solution, more so in the middle and not so on either side, if that makes sense. Honestly, like going back to, I know I talked a bit about satisfaction. Like, if somebody feels more included, they're obviously more likely to come in and do their job at the best ability they can do. I mean, when you have a sense of belonging, and just in general, you're gonna want to do and commit to whatever you're doing pretty much at your at your best ability. And honestly, if you were to go into a job where you feel very much included and respected by others, no matter who you are or your background, you're going to go in that job happy, one. You're going to go in that job performing to your max ability because you want to be there. I can't stress how many times I've worked a job that I actually liked, but the work environment wasn't so including, I want to say. So I've had to leave. And my last job before this, before I became a school-age teacher with kids 1st through 5th grade, I worked for the YMCA. And I loved it. It was my first time working with kids, but working there, I realized some of my colleagues weren't as committed to the kids as me. And, even my higher ups weren't really committed to the kids. They were just basically there for the money. And you see how others, being in meetings and all that, I saw how others, of other races, whether it may be, got treated, and I didn't really like that. So that's why I excluded myself from the company. And the company that I work with now, we did do the trainings for diversity and whatnot. That was one of the biggest things that I took away from my onboarding process, and that's one of the reasons why I'm still at the job I'm at now, because I feel included. I feel not judged. You know what I mean? Like, I love coming to my job because we have so many. It's so diverse, and I love it because it's so many different races, so many different backgrounds. So when we come together and we have team meetings or whatever it may be, it's always laughs. It's always learning something new. And honestly, like, I learned something new from my class colleagues at work, classmates in general. And I honestly think that because I'm able to do that at a high ability, because I've been through the diversity trainings. I researched about diversity and inclusion. I understand how very important it is, not only in the business world, but just in the regular life. It's good to be open to other people's perspectives and ideas, because it's gonna lead to better team collaboration, just in general, networking. You know what I mean? Even if we just go past the business side of things and just speak in a more broader sense of things, it's just gonna help in general with networking, and a lot of different other things. But that's really why I wanted to dig deep into inclusion and diversity, because like I said, I've dealt with it in the workplace plenty of times, so I really have true life experience to it. I know how it feels. It sucks. It's not a great feeling. And I'm actually